it's interesting to see these. There have never been more disparate viewpoints between the left and the right. In terms of, it's almost like two different planets that people are coming from, two entirely different understandings of America. What is freedom? What is freedom of speech? What is it to have freedom of conscience, religious liberty, freedom of assembly, freedom of press? Just ask the PBS president what she thinks is fair and balanced versus what is actually fair and balanced. So, like, it seems like we're getting more and more freedom, like these things are unlocking. And yet at the same time, the stakes and the consequences of those viewpoints could not be greater. We literally had someone assassinated for viewpoint discrimination. So what do you make of all of that?
You know, I think back about, it was either 94 or 96, Bill Clinton, a Democrat, signed the Defense of Marriage Act, like just as an example of how, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we were more in agreement about definitions of things.
Yeah.
And as our culture has drifted further and further left and gotten more and more godless, and by the way, I feel responsible, that's really the pulpits that have allowed that. And passive pulpits have created passive people in the pews. So we've allowed this kind of a moral trend to just disintegrate like this. But my point is, what used to be, Democrats and Republicans had more agreement years ago than they do now. And again, it's this moral clash of, well, what defines stuff anymore? And so if you're defining things yourself as to what's right and what's wrong because self is on the throne, and I'm defining stuff as what's right and what's wrong because God is on the throne, then more and more you're going to have these divergent paths, and you're going to see more friction, and you're going to see more hostility and more volatility, and the vitriol is worse than I've ever seen it, because now there's no common agreement about things. And when there's this lack of common agreement about what's right and what's wrong, you have a war. And Ryan, I believe too, what we're seeing is we're seeing the spiritual forces of evil on the rise. And at the same time, we're seeing a sweeping move of the Holy Spirit to bring revival. And when you have those two elements happening in the spirit realm, the move of the Holy Spirit and the move of the demonic principalities, you get this kind of spiritual conflict, this war in the heavenlies that is showing itself in our culture right now.
Yeah.
And it's vicious.